Going for boost over. Well, I think going for boost if you're a boost merchant, like someone like AJ or someone, you go for boost.
100% of the time.
Yes.
Always, every second of every game. Ball's going in your net, don't worry about it. Go get the boost and make sure you've got the full 100 to celebrate with the other team.
Never. Yeah, never. Always go for ball. Yes. Number one rule of Rocket League.
Welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, where three aggressively average Rocket League players talk about everything RLCS with your hosts, Ace, Code Red Jack, Kyle Cube, and AJ Binky. So, if you've ever wondered when the best time to go for Boost Over Ball is, you've come to the right place.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for coming back. If you're old and if you're new, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Today, I'm Kyle K Cube. I'm here today with AJ and Code Red Jack. How's it going, guys?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. Happy to be on the podcast again, on this podcast train where we talk about all the things we know because we're experts in everything Rocket League.
Yeah, especially AJ and Pandy from last week. We'll talk about that more once we get to our predictions. But on today's episode, we will be talking about Gamers8, the last Rocket League event of the season, as we are now fully in the off season. We'll be revisiting our predictions. We'll talk about the results and implications of everything that has happened with Gamers8 and the crew battle format and some of the talk that people have been the discourse people have been having on Twitter, and we will wrap up with some roster rumors and some roster confirmations that we've been hearing through the grapevine. Ace, why don't you get us started with our group stages?
So, start off with Group A. We're looking at Team Vitality, G2 Esports, Optic, Gaming Gladiators, Ground Zero, and Oxygen Esports. It starts off with Oxygen Esports taking on Ground Zero 3-1. Optic Gaming taking on Gaming Gladiators 3-1. Oxygen goes on to beat Vitality in Game 5, sending them to the lower bracket. And then G2 Esports ends up sweeping Optic Gaming. So that brings us to the first round of lower bracket. You're looking at Optic Gaming sweeping Ground Zeros, ending their run in this tournament. And then you have Vitality sweeping Gaming Gladiators, ending their run. Then we go on to the semifinal lower brackets. We're looking at Vitality sweeps Optic Gaming. Then let's go into it's not really a semifinal, but the third upper bracket games in Group A. We're looking at Oxygen Esports versus G2, with Oxygen yet again pulling out another dub, beating G2 Esports 3-1, which brings us to Vitality versus G2 in the lower bracket, where Vitality sweeps G2, and that pulls Oxygen Esports, Team Vitality qualifying out of Group A. Group B, we're looking at Team BDS, Gen G, Monkeys, Twisted Minds, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Elevate. First round, we're looking Twisted Minds sweeping Elevate, Monkeys sweeping Ninjas in Pajamas. Those two teams go on to face off against BDS and Gen G, with Twisted Minds losing to BDS 3-1, Gen G beating Monkeys 3-1 as well. Lower bracket quarterfinals, we're looking at Monkeys beating Elevate 3-1, ending Elevate's run. And then Twisted Minds and Ninjas in Pajamas go to Game 5, with Twisted Minds ending up taking the win and ending Ninja's run. Then in our lower bracket semifinals, Monkeys beat Twisted Minds 3-1, which then sends
them through to the lower bracket final.
Thank you. Sends them through to the lower bracket final. But before we get to lower bracket final, let's go back up to the top. We're looking at Team BDS Gen G with Gen G being swept by BDS, which sends Gen G down to face off Monkeys, where they beat them 3-1. We have Team BDS and Gen G qualifying through Group B of the Gamers8 tournament.
Okay. Now that we've gotten 2 out of the way, AJ, what were your thoughts kind of on these 2 groups having Oxygen, Vitality, BDS, and Gen G qualifying through to the playoffs?
Vitality lost.
Yeah.
What happened?
Joria's happened.
Good point.
Joria's
went wild that series.
He's had I think he may have the standout performance of the entire tournament. Like for a single person to carry his team the way that he did. I mean, if you look at it, Oxygen takes down Vitality, they take down G2, and they continue, their good run of form in playoffs. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but can't say enough good things about Oxygen, especially after their like bitter disappointment that happened at the World Championships. 2 weeks before, not even making it out of Swiss stage. So, I think can't say enough good things about Oxygen. Ace, what about you?
Joria's really showed up.
I mean, I feel like I have the exact same reaction everybody probably did watching this is Vitality can lose. Question mark? Yes. It turns out they can. They still end up pulling out of the Group A, but Oxygen just had another one of their absolutely Cinderella runs. We haven't seen an Oxygen Cinderella run since I think, what was it? First split of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So, good to see it. Good to see them back. Group B is not really surprising. If I were here a week ago, I would have called BDS and Gen G to come out of that. So that was, Group B went exactly how you would expect it to. Group A was really where we're seeing some pretty interesting upsets.
Agreed. But now we'll jump on to Group C and D. In Group C, we have Carmine Corp, Team Falcons, FaZe Clan, Pioneers, Furia, and Limitless. We have FaZe Clan beating Pioneers 3-1, and we have Furia sweeping Limitless 3-0. We then have Carmine Corp sweeping FaZe, and we have Team Falcons taking down Furia in Game 5. Moving into the lower bracket, we have Furia sweeping Pioneers, and we have FaZe Clan beating Limitless in 5 games, like being taken to Game 5 by Limitless. Then in the lower bracket semifinal, we have Furia taking down FaZe Clan and ending their run 3-1. And moving up into the upper bracket final, we have Team Falcons taking down Carmine Corp 3-1 to qualify for playoffs. And in the lower bracket final, we have Furia eliminating Carmine Corp 3-2 to qualify through from that lower bracket spot. Moving on to Group D, we have Team Liquid, Rule 1, Version 1, Team Secret, Koi. In our first round uppers, we have Version 1 taking down 3-1. We have Team Secret taking down Koi 3-1. Then moving into the upper bracket semifinal, we have Version 1 taking down Team Liquid in Game 5, and we have Rule 1 sweeping Team Secret. Then in our lower bracket quarterfinals, we have Team Secret taking down in 5 games, and we have Team Liquid beating Koi 3-1. In our lower bracket semifinal, we have Team Liquid beating Team Secret 3-1 to move into the lower bracket final. And in our upper bracket final, we have Version 1 losing to Rule 1 3-1 to set up a lower bracket grand final with Team Liquid, which they beat Team Liquid 3-2 to advance through to the lower bracket. So to quickly recap, from Group C, we have Team Falcons in the upper bracket, Team Furia from the lower bracket, and in Group D, we have Rule 1 from the upper bracket and Version 1 from the lower bracket. What do you, AJ? What do you think about the groups that made it out of these 2 groups?
I think for the most part, it was pretty not super surprising with who made it out, but I was surprised that Carmine Corp didn't make it out.
Yeah, I think me, you, and Pandy all predicted Carmine Corp to advance out of the group. So it's certainly but all three, we talked about it in depth, that you can't really count Fury out. They were your reigning champs from last year, and they seem to always perform well in the crew battle format. So Team Falcons, I think, was not unexpected, but maybe not the most likely. And then we got to talk about that Group D. I will let you have first say with version 1 qualifying through to the playoffs. How do you feel about that?
Version 1. How do we feel about version 1? That's a good question. So, they made the upper bracket finals against Liquid. Wait.
Rule 1.
No, it was against Rule 1. Against Rule 1. They lost that 1-3 to go down to the lower to play against Liquid to make the second spot. But the upper final played against Vitality first game in the playoffs. So part of me thinks they didn't exactly try their hardest in that game.
Maybe it was a little bit calculated. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe. Knowing if you win, you play against the world champion, it would be hard to give it your all,
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from.
I mean, I'll jump in. This is not the first time. I believe it was version 1 back in, what was it, first split, second split, back when Gen G was absolutely phenomenal and FaZe was the only people that could take him out. I think it was version 1 that I saw that I remember losing to somebody they really shouldn't have, but it put them out of the crosshairs and put those two against each other. Does this sound familiar to you at all, Kyle? I had a huge conspiracy theory way back when.
Yeah, well, because we talked about that then when we brought it up again for Mina to go to the winter major, right? So it was like Rule 1 should have lost a certain series so that they could knock Team Falcons out earlier so that they could make a major. So it's like the only way for them to make the major was actually to lose a series so that they could, beat Team Falcons sooner. So, it's not a new concept. Still,
it's just very interesting, but I will say that the only thing that I see out of this, I mean, one, Group C, that is a hard group to predict because you had Karmine Corp, Falcons, and Furia in there. You also had 14th Clan and Pioneers and Limitless. Like those three could, fine, they're not going to be out. But I am happy to see that 14th Clan lives up to their name.
Hell yeah. I love that 14th clan, soon to be dead clan. We'll talk about that here in a second, though. But Hayes, why don't you take us through our playoff matches up to the semifinals?
Oh boy, howdy do I want to. All right, are you ready for this? Okay, so we're looking at playoffs, and we're talking quarterfinals. So first round, you have version 1 versus Oxygen, and Oxygen is still continuing their Cinderella run. They take version 1 all the way to Champions Field, into Game 7, and version 1 ends up winning in that final match. But good on Oxygen for getting all the way to that point and then taking version 1 to the very end. And for anyone paying attention, that is back-to-back games that version 1 had to win in the final game of the series. So, version 1 was playing the long game at this point. Now, Team Falcons end up surprisingly taking out Gen G 4-1. Gen G were looking like they might be back in form, but then Falcons were like, no, hold my boost, right? Then you got Team BDS taking out Furia 4-1. And then here we go. Here's the most interesting part. It is the World Champion curse. Apparently, you can't win Worlds and then go on to be any sort of name in the game because Vitality gets swept by Rule 1.
Right, to be fair, it's
one
tournament and it's a different format, so it's not exactly.
Didn't Vitality win the last Gamers8 though?
No, Furia did. Okay. But I will say, yeah, they did win the qualifier.
Okay, so it was the qualifier.
I will say though, if Rule 1 swept Vitality, that means Zen lost a 1v1 match to Ruas. It's happened before on a Johnny Boy stream, but it happens again when the world is watching. Can't say enough good things about Rawas and how well Rule 1 played. We will, continue on with our brackets, and I'll save the rest of my thoughts till the end.
Oh, absolutely. But I just gotta say, I don't know. It is a different format. It's Gamers8. It's a crew format, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if this says more about the trajectory that Rule 1 has been showing, where they are just performing better and better and better. Or this is the world's curse, or if it's just a exception in the data, and then we're going to see Vitality come back. I'm excited to see how this goes. But continuing on with the bracket, you said, we got semifinals. We're looking at Team Falcon version 1 with version 1 winning 4-2, and then Team BDS and Rule 1 with Rule 1 winning 4-1. So Rule 1's continuing their strong suit. And then I would be rude to not hand this on over to AJ to tell us about the grand finals.
Just taking a dramatic pause.
He's breathing in to prepare for the speech that he's about to give on this.
No, I just got to the end of the dog park. So.
Well, this is why we pay the editor so much, so he can cut out all that empty space.
So we could just keep it.
Oh, dramatic effect! I like it.
Exactly. Yeah. Dramatic pause. Still pausing. Okay. So where are we at now?
The grand
I
finals.
missed a whole lot of that conversation.
We're on grand finals, baby.
Sounds good. Are we ready?
Yep.
We are on the edges of our seat.
All right. So grand finals. Version 1 takes down Rule 1 in a rematch. They take them down 4-1. And they looked good.
Yeah, the only game that they lost that series was a 1v1 between Beast Mode and Rawas, and that was a 6-5 win for Rawas.
Yeah, how do we feel about Beast Mode taking over 1v1s over Daniel?
I mean, he looked good up until that point.
Yeah, he was doing work. It was crazy. Kind of surprised.
Yeah.
Now, I'm rather curious to see how this all plays out, because when I first got into esports, all those many months ago, as in last year at Texas Worlds, everybody was on the Daniel train, or a significant portion of the population was on the Daniel train, and I feel like I feel like over the course of this last season, he is kind of somewhat faded into the background, and this almost cements that to some extent, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has said more recently after Gamers8 that he prefers to play a more passive third man. That's kind of the role that he likes to play the most. And I think personally, and it was really showing in this tournament especially, that Beast Mode really enables him to do that, right? So you have Calm, the aggressor. Beast Mode is kind of the premier setup man and, mechanical wizard. And, it allows Daniel to kind of play maybe more free, maybe a little bit more conservative like he likes to do, kind of take a back seat, so to speak. And it's getting closer to, in my opinion at least, the way Vitality is, right? It's like you can't focus on Beast Mode because then Daniel or Calm will beat you, right? So like in my opinion, it kind of, Radosin and Calm are, a little bit similar, sneaky mechanical, likes to be a disruptor and really like facilitate for his other teammates. Beast Mode and Zen, maybe not necessarily to the same level because we've seen all the things that Zen can do when the world is watching. But Beast Mode is a fantastic player. He wins MVP for this event. And then Daniel and Alpha, I think, are pretty similar, right? They're both very mechanical. They both are kind of facilitators, and they clean up a lot of the stuff that is given to them by, beast mode or Zen. Am I like wildly off base there? Or do you think that kind of makes some sense maybe?
No, I just thought we were doing pausing for dramatic effect now.
Hey, that's fair. Yeah.
I'm kind of addicted to it at this point, so I'm trying to do it more often. Anyway, no, I think that you are, as always, astute in your analysis, and I don't really have anything to disagree with in what you're saying, other than to just be like, "Yep, you're right."
Fair.
I'm gonna be driving home, so I'm gonna be quiet. Also, I got a fucking parking ticket after an hour, and I paid for 2 hours. So kind of pissed about that.
That's stupid.
Well, and you
Yeah.
could take a picture of it with your still valid parking meter, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not paying the fucking parking ticket. Tell you that much.
Fair.
Good. Don't.
Yeah, stupid. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna be outie for probably the rest of it. It's about a 10-minute drive home.
Okay.
All right, no worries. We
Probably.
can finish it before you get back.
Cool. I'll still be in here listening.
All right.
But with our results out of the way, we'll kind of jump back to look at our predictions from last week. From Group A, AJ had Vitality in G2. Actually, AJ, myself, and Pandy all had Vitality in G2, and we got Vitality right, and we did not get G2 right. In Group B, AJ had BDS and Gen G, and so did Andy, and they were both fully correct. I had BDS and Twisted Minds, and I was incorrect about Twisted Minds. In Group C, we all had Carmine Corp. We were all incorrect. Pandy and I had Falcons, and AJ had Furia, and we were all correct in that, albeit in different slots than we anticipated. And in Group D, AJ and Pandy both had V1 and Rule 1, and they were fully correct. And I had Version 1 and Liquid, and I was incorrect on Liquid. So, we gotta give it up again. Everybody knows how it goes. I gotta find it in the thing.
Pause for dramatic effect.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
There we go.
So, claps for Pandy and AJ as they both are able to get. They only missed out on two of the 8. So 6 out of 8 is fantastic, and I was a little bit further behind at 4 out of 8. So all in all, a pretty good overall predictions, and a really great job from Pandy and AJ. So congrats again on your fantastic predictions.
Yay! Good jobs.
But Ace, why don't you take us away with like overall kind of thoughts from the tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. So, overall thoughts. For one, the first thing that stands out to me is the run that Rule 1 had. They're showing that they are very consistently in the top contention of each of these tournaments. I think they were 4th in Worlds?
Yes.
And Siri, go away. Sorry. And then they end up 2nd in Gamers8. They also sweep Vitality. Granted, as we pointed out, it is a different format, but again, they're showing time and time again that they are a top name, they are a top team. So it makes me wonder at this point, is this a sign that MENA is now a major region? Are they 1st, 2nd, 3rd best? I mean, they don't have France, so it's hard to call them the top region, but are they supplanting NA as 2nd best region? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the results kind of speak for themselves, right? They had the only non-EU team in the top 4 at the World Championships. They have 2 of the 4 Final 4 teams from Gamers8. They've certainly made their case to, that they're going to continue to improve their, version, Rule 1 especially. They're all 16 years old, so they have a lot of time to continue to grow and improve together as a team. Team Falcons with the pickup of Nupo, however you want to pronounce it. They looked good. He looked good. So I mean, I would kind of contend at this point, until we see what happens and the dust settles with the roster changes in NA, I kind of put them as the second best region currently. Maybe not the deepest, right? Because 2-3 teams is what they have, but they certainly have made their case for MENA to get more than one major spot, in my personal opinion.
And I have to agree. I think I'm agreeing with you, agreeing with me. So
yeah,
I definitely have to agree.
Fair.
All right. Well, next topic, V1. Is version 1 showing that they're back? Are we going to see them next season do the work? Or are we spoiling future parts of this episode? I don't know.
Well, again, we'll talk about some more roster rumor stuff here in the end once we're done, with our recap of Gamers8. But I'd love to see I'm sure AJ would as well love to see the roster stay together, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we come to it. But I certainly think that they looked fantastic. This is kind of the what I would have expected from them in the last split, and kind of thought that they could ride that high to Worlds. They were unable to do that ultimately, but they did look good.
What are your thoughts on this format? I mean, for me, I think the crew battle format brings a lot of variation to a tournament, and I think that it also is much more inclusive of the different game modes offered by the game itself instead of it just being purely 3v3. I think it forces a team to be more dynamic in their skill set and their training, and honestly, it leads itself to be from a spectator point of view, I think it's a much more interesting way to manage a tournament and to watch, honestly, because it's going to change every single time, and you get to see everybody do what they may be best at, whether it's ones, twos, or threes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's certainly something different, which is exciting to see. We certainly get a lot of 3v3 Rocket League in RLCS, and I think that the crew battle is a nice change of pace from that personally. There's different strategies, there's different metas in 1v1 and 2v2 game modes. It's awesome to see the different mechanics that come out from players. You have highly mechanical, extremely talented players like Zen. You have some more grounded players like OSM who played him in ones, played him pretty close actually for the most part in their 1v1 matchup pretty early on. But I know people have been talking on Twitter a little bit about potentially, I think Tryhouse talked about, he said, make one split, like a full split, a crew battle format. And, while I think that would be very cool and exciting, I think that you could also just get away with like maybe changing the invitational from a 3v3 to a crew battle format and just doing open qualifiers like you do for the rest of the events. I think that would be fantastic. But it certainly, from a coaching aspect, it brings a different like angle to it, because what are the in a 1v1 situation, what are your two teammates doing during the game? Are they watching the game, or are they in free play staying warm? So it really takes a good coach and a good mentality from the team to be able to be successful in this format, because you're not playing every game potentially. So you have to be able to stay involved in the series, stay mentally and physically locked in so that you can look to continue to compete. So I think that it brings a lot to the game, and I would certainly love to see it more moving forward.
Sorry if there's a bunch of noise. I'm being dog attacked. Okay. My princess just showed up, and she's just like, I need attention right now, and hopped in my lap. There must be thunder outside. Anyway, yes. So one of the interesting things I think is I don't know if many teams have them or if I'm just completely uninformed, but I think that if we move towards a more crew battle focused meta on the competitive scene, which I would love to see because I think it's absolutely fantastic, but I think it would give rise to assistant coaches, right? Because you're going to want to coach in there during the game, talking to your player, right? Well, I don't know how much coaching you do during a game, because the crew battle thing, it's a game and then you switch, right?
Yeah, so it was 3v3, and then the loser decides between a 1v1 or a 2v2, then a 3v3 again, and then the other one, and then going from there. But I know that RLCS coaches are only allowed to talk to their players when a goal is scored, like when the replay is happening, and in between matches.
Interesting. Because if you do have one player in and 2 players out, and they're just maintaining a warm up, it would be interesting to see if something like an assistant coach or somebody else sitting there working on the 2 that are doing warm ups, while you have a coach focused on the people playing. It'd be interesting to see if that, because one, that's just more staff, and more staff means bigger franchises, and I'm here for that because I want to see the sport grow, right? Besides, it'd be interesting to see more people that maybe not, are the best and the best at playing the video game involved in the video game.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I also I thoroughly enjoy RLCS and I thoroughly enjoy watching it. It's an absolute blast, and I cannot actually describe another event or anything I've been to that has the same kind of energy as going to a major or anything like that. I would love to have an opportunity to go to a Gamers8 tournament and see how the energy works in that format, because what was it, Worlds in Texas, they had that ones tournament and it was kind of like nobody, no, it wasn't a ones tournament, it was a freestyle tournament,
Yeah.
and it just didn't have the same energy as 3v3. So I'm curious to see how it scales as far as spectating. Was Gamers8 only streamed? That wasn't a LAN, right?
It was a LAN. It was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's sponsored by like the Saudi government. That's why the prize pools were so big. So like, Beast Mode took home like $290,000.
Oh, is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Oh, wow. Poor underpaid guy, that guy.
No kidding. And there's
Wow.
also an additional $100,000 award to the player who had the most demos.
Oh, who got that?
We talked about it in. They're two V1 players.
Of course.
Was it Daniel?
You're asking me? I guess I could look this up while we're talking. But anyway,
We sent there's a picture that was sent on Twitter.
Oh. Well, I've been derailing this a bit long, so we can go back to that as we go. But I think that pretty much wraps up the thoughts I have as far as how the tournament went. Do you want to tell us about the biggest winners and losers, and then we can add in the person who got $100,000 for demoing the most to that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start out with our biggest winners. First and foremost, got to be V1. A huge win, great way to end the year on a high note. They certainly won a lot of prize money from that tournament, and they look fantastic doing so. Second, I have the MENA region. Two teams in the top 4, and another great showing. And again, like I talked about earlier, another bid for more major spots for MENA. Third, I have Rule 1 specifically, a sweep against Vitality. Rawas taking down Zen in 1v1 on the main stage to knock them out of their first tournament since acquiring Zen. And last but not least, I have Oxygen. Jorius had a monster tournament. I can't say enough good things about how well he performed. They looked amazing, and kudos to them for shaking off a bad Worlds performance to come together and have a great showing here at Gamers8. What do you think about my biggest winners? Am I wrong or what?
I mean, I feel like we've covered quite a few of those as we've had this discussion as we come to this point, and I agree. Great showing from Version 1. It's good to see them win. MENA, again, looking very strong. They're making a real good argument about being maybe second best region. Rule 1 sweeping Vitality, again, nailed it. That's fantastic to see. It's also the first time we've seen Vitality really get their ticket punched. Hey, I make up these things as I go. And then Oxygen again had another one of their Cinderella runs. Unfortunately, they don't make it all the way as is what we're used to seeing with them. But every now and then they come and they come ready to play. Now Give us your biggest losers, so to speak. Le hazers.
Okay. We'll start out in a little bit of a different order. The Sam region. I don't think they performed as well as they or I, thought that they could. We see, Ninjas in Pajamas and Team Secret. We do not see Crew at this event, and I don't think that they, the Sam teams performed particularly well. Secondly, would be Optic Gaming. They only took games off of teams from minor regions. They did not look good against G2, and they did not really leave a lasting impression on the tournament. And last but certainly not least, and I personally would think the biggest loser of this event would be FaZe Clan. They only beat Pioneers and Limitless, and that Limitless series was a game 5. It went to game 5, mind you, right? So like an SSA team took FaZe to a game, 5 after losing game 1. First Killer, shows up and beats Snowy in a 1v1. But, in the first 2 3v3 games, Limitless, took it to him and they beat him. So, I think that we'll talk about it again here in the roster rumors confirmed, but I think that this is the last time we'll see this iteration of FaZe Clan. And what a way for them to go out in a, fiery explosion, crashing and burning after the departure of Roldiz.
Yeah, I mean, if you're being held together by duct tape and you rip the duct tape off as a way to solve your problems, you're gonna fall apart. And I think Roldiz was doing a fantastic job with that roster, and I think that their performance since his ousting shows that. And that's what they. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that's what they get. I wanted to say that, but that's a bit more aggressive and honestly toxic than I mean. But I'm not a big fan of that move. I'm not a big fan of FaZe Clan in this iteration of FaZe Clan. I think that they could be and should be doing way better. I just don't think that the roster that they had was working, and it's exciting to see not me. See, like the potential for a big mix-up, mix-up. No,
Mix up, shake up, whatever you want to go with.
shake-up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be interesting because I feel like more than any other season, and now we're kind of moving into our rumors here, our roster rumors. But I feel like more than any other season, this is going to be more like was that board game? Is it Boggle, where you shake it and your letters just go everywhere, and then you make the best word you can? I feel like this roster season, this roster mania, is going to be more like a game of Boggle than we've ever seen before. You have NA. They need to really do some work to not lose their position as second best, and maybe even try to have some sort of say in possibly being first best region again. You have EU. Everybody except Vitality is going to be pushing real hard to try and be, competitive against Vitality. Of course, this Gamers8 tournament may add some question marks to that for everybody because of Vitality's performance and them being swept by Rule 1. And then Mina, that's the biggest question. I'm going to start that off with you. I mean, we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have any rumors about the Mina region. But do you see Mina making lots of moves? Do you see a roster mania in the Mina region at all with their performance?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we saw Falcons add Nwepo for Gamers8. I think that was a pretty big move, dropping O'Khalid. So I think the only move you may see is like a Twisted Minds or something like that, picking up O'Khalid if he doesn't decide to change regions. But I think that Rule 1 is not going to make a change. I think that they're very happy with how they've been progressing, right? Throughout the season. In their first major, they made top 4 where most people didn't expect them to, and then you come to Gamers8 and you get a top 2. That's positive progress, and they're able to do it by beating the best team in the world in Vitality.
Absolutely. Well, moving away from Mina, let's go ahead and just open up the floor. Tell me about all the rumors that you're aware of.
So it has been confirmed. G1 is set to disband. That roster will be dissolved, and G1 will not currently have a roster in RLCS. Maybe they will look to pick up a new one, or maybe they will leave the scene. I'm not entirely sure yet, but that roster is no more. First Killer will not be re-signed by FaZe Clan, will become a free agent, and I believe that the FaZe roster is set to disband. Now, I don't know, there's rumors that we've talked about FaZe being bought out or, maybe leaving the scene altogether, but FaZe as a roster of Sypical, Mist, and First Killer is going to be no more. Also confirmed, Nolly is officially off of Gen G. Apparently, Jack and Chronic are going to be looking for a third and staying in NA. And now that AJ is back, we can talk a little bit more in depth about Com posting a video on Twitter that he is, quote, no longer competing under the V1 banner, end quote, and he is now a free agent and is not going to be renewed by V1. So I guess the biggest question coming out of this is, could this be V1 being bought out, or do you think there's something else at play here?
All right, I don't know if AJ is fully back. So I'll go ahead.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm throwing you under the bus. Yep.
There he is.
Yeah, so Comp's contract is up and they are not looking to renew it. Same thing happened with their content creator, Chrissy. So I assume Daniel and Beast Mode still have some sort of contract with them. So I don't know, are they gonna get bought out? Like, is V1 just gonna become a new team, a new org, but still have the 3 players? Or are they keeping the 2 players with contracts still and getting a third? Who knows? But from everything I hear, V1 will not be playing next season in Rocket League. But that is not confirmed. That is just speculation.
Well, this is the speculation section.
Perfect.
Well,
yeah.
that's very interesting.
That's
So
great.
if everything that we're speculating, if all the rumors are true, right? So that means that we do not have FaZe, we do not have V1. So without either of them, that means that what? SSG moves up, Gen G, they'll pick up a third, they move up. So who are our top NA at this point? Gen G, SSG,
Maybe G2.
nah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really going to depend. Like you said, it's becoming more and more of a cluster than we ever could have imagined, right? So, is Nolly going to stay in NA or is he going to move back to EU? Is Com, going to still compete with Beast Mode and Daniel under a new name or something like that, or is he going to be a free agent? First Killer is a free agent. If Sypical doesn't retire, he'll be looking for a new team. If JNaps doesn't retire, do they run it back as G2 or do they make a big roster move? And then you also got to think about, NRG is certainly not going to run it back as Squishy is no longer with the team. So Squishy's a free agent. We've talked about the rumors of Garrett and AJ and potentially Eris being the new NRG team, which then, leaves a spot open on Optic, which then, leaves kind of Justin out of the fold. So, where does Justin go? So there's certainly an ever-growing amount of dominoes that need to be knocked over in order to kind of piece the region back together, but I am extremely intrigued to see where this leaves us.
Well, and Mike,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm also very curious. I brought up SSG, and now that I think about it, I'm like, I feel like SSG has to do something too, right? I mean, they started to put it together near the end of the season, but I don't think even at their best, which they looked at their best in Worlds, they were competitive to a point where they had a real shot at making it. So, do you think they need to make a change too? And if they do make a change, what change would they make?
I personally don't think they need to make a change. They, had steadily improving results throughout the season, especially in that third split. They looked good in Worlds. I think that potentially a full off season of working together and continuing to improve as a team would be good. And also, if every team is changing like we think that they are, the stability that they have may be enough to propel them to number 1 seed, especially for the fall or for the first split, right? Or even depending on what type of format Psionics and RLCS decide to implement. But I think that stability could be a really big advantage in the beginning of the season.
Well, I have a very interesting idea, and we could probably do this for the next episode. We'll talk about it offline, but and come up with if we want to do it. But let's make a list. Let's make a list. Let's make a list between now and our next episode, right? And we will order our FAs, our free agents, kind of a like a somewhat of a podcast fantasy draft of who is our number one pick of the free agents right now. Is it going to be Justin? Is it going to be First Killer?
Okay, I like it. That's peak off-season content. We're here for that. We're now officially in full off-season, so we have a couple of ideas and some great episodes for you guys coming up, and that's certainly at the top of the list.
Absolutely. And let's see if we can get one of our which one of our top tier guests that we have lined up. I've seen the list. They're freaking amazing. Can't wait to talk to all of them. But let's get one of them to weigh in, because we need at least somebody knows what they're talking about on this podcast.
Yeah. That could be that's a fantastic idea. So we'll put that in the works. But in the meantime, we're gonna wrap up here for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Oh, what up?
Before we go, how do we feel about Daniel Beast Mode First Killer?
That's a lot of mechanical talent on one team.
Well, with Daniel wanting to take the back seat and just play third, I think that might actually work really well, because Beast Mode and First Killer can just do Beast Mode and First Killer things up front.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly an interesting idea. But stop stealing content. Stop stealing our off-season content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait.
All right. Yeah, bring that to the draft, okay? These
are the kind of takes we're looking for there.
I got you.
But with that being said, I'll take this from the top again. It's time for us to wrap up for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, join our Discord, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, as it really, really helps us out as we continue to grow. Also, check out our YouTube channel with more videos incoming soon, Twitch, our TikTok. All of these links and more can be found on our website at www.boostoverball.com. And from us on the show, from your podcasting and RLCS experts, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball.
Thank you for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website, www.boostoverball.com, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts.